How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Ladd Podcast. And today, our special guest is Judi from Soul Spirit Farm. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on the show. I love talking about the Emerald Triangle. I love the great things that you guys are doing. I feel like we need to support you guys as much as we possibly can. The industry's getting smaller by the day, it seems like. And part of the reason we're here is because the Emerald Triangle. Without the Emerald Triangle, the people in it, I don't know if this industry would exist the same way it exists today.
I think we can say that it definitely would not.
I agree.
Yeah, it's it's challenging in this current market. It's when you're a small craft producer, your expenses are higher. It takes a lot more to get this to the market than it does if you're, on a 100-acre farm down in Santa Barbara. But unfortunately, it seems as though people are not really recognizing the difference in the product and therefore the difference in the cost. And so we all have to figure out, how do we help consumers and retail buyers sort of understand the value proposition here and why it should be valued higher.
There was a day not long ago when outdoor was just as expensive or more expensive than indoor. I remember those days. That was in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Right. And so people have long forgotten that. They think it's an inferior product when actually in many regards it's a better product as far as if we're looking at outdoor, mixed light, more environmentally friendly, but also as far as like if you get it right now, this is my favorite time of year for flower, it's some of the best flower on the planet.
Yeah. And when you think about other agricultural products, what fetches the highest price? It's something grown by a small farmer, organically, regeneratively. People are very used to going to their grocery store and paying more for organic produce. And for some strange reason, in cannabis, that's not the case.
Right. Well, not yet, because I feel like we still have hope. We still have hope. There's still time. We're not out of time. There's still time to correct this. There's still time to make people more educated, more aware of the situation of the quality that they're getting and understanding quality. It's not easy sometimes. People are like, oh, well, I like this because of the fancy packaging, right? Or I like this because of this or the way it looks. And sometimes the best stuff doesn't always look great. The best oranges or the best apples or the best pears, those organic ones don't look as good as the ones sitting on the shelves that are half price or less.
Often. That's true. Yeah. And I think that, it is also this factor of what they're being offered on the shelf.
Right.
Because like I said before, it's very challenging for someone like me to even garner shelf space, especially in like some of the bigger chain stores.
Right.
And, I would hazard a guess that maybe at least 80% of dispensaries in California have zero craft products on the menu.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the awareness just isn't there too. People think, well, I want this brand or that brand because I know about them from Instagram or I know about them from here. And they might know a little bit about Ridgeline Farms. They have a commercial side of that. They're not necessarily their flower. Their flower is amazing. I think what Jason's doing, he's pushing some of the more modern style genetics and growing it. It's very much a reflection of Jason.
Absolutely.
And then we got Huckleberry Hill, which is also really great for the community. Johnny's doing amazing work. His Whitethorn Rose is special. Everybody that smokes it understands the amazing flower, amazing rosin that's behind it. It's like, so there is hope for everybody. And there is, it is getting out there in small amounts, but there's so many farmers that a lot of people don't know anything about.
Right. And so, especially in Trinity where we are.
Yeah.
I mean, can you name 3 Trinity brands?
Sad that I can't.
Yeah. So one is Soul Spirit Farm.
Yeah, of course. Oh, of course.
Easy one. That's a gimme.
Yeah.
But, and then you have Terry Mines, right? Hash and Flowers.
Yeah.
And really other than that, Poet, which is a co-op brand called the producer owners of the Emerald Triangle. They're like centered in Trinity, but they also have flower from Humboldt and Mendo.
Yeah, I think of them as more Humboldt.
But ultimately, what else can you name? And so like of the 3 counties, I would say Trinity more than any, everybody just sells on the bulk market. They haven't branded themselves.
And it's amazing flower too. There's amazing flower. That's an amazing growing climate.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you just have this sort of, I would say often if I'm out at an event and I ask someone like, name the 3 counties of the Emerald Triangle, unfortunately, a lot of people don't even know what I'm talking about.
Sonoma.
Yeah, right.
I love Sonoma too. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I have some history with Sonoma, and I love Sonoma, and I love the banana belt up at the top of Sonoma Cazadero.
Yep.
But also, it's like with Mendocino, the work that Mendocino, Humboldt, and Trinity has done is just so impactful for our industry, even breeding and genetics wise. A lot of the stuff, even though maybe the Bay Area gets a lot of credit for, a lot of the work was done up there.
Well, yeah, and it's, because of the timeline, right? Breeding takes time to do it well. You have to stabilize things over, especially if you are growing one crop a season.
Yeah.
It's, potentially even more than a decade that it would take you to really get something solid. And where do we have lots and lots of farmers who have that sort of longevity? Not very many other places in the U.S.
Well, and a lot of the hippies from San Francisco escaped to the Emerald Triangle to start growing cannabis.
Yep.
And I think so there was the tide of the Bay Area, and then they went up there to, start families, start cultivations, growing illegally against the system, even though they knew it was illegal. They did it anyway because it's right.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that from what I understand, because I did not grow up in the Emerald Triangle, I'm actually from the suburbs of Chicago. But,
wow.
My understanding is that a lot of those first back to the landers, it wasn't even to grow cannabis. It was literally to like get out of the system and go back to the land, kind of like tap out. Right. And do their own thing because they weren't supporting the political climate of what was going on at the time. And they were like, we do not want to participate in the Vietnam War. We do not want to participate in these things. We're going to head to the hills and create our own culture.
Yeah.
And through that, people realized like, oh, well, we all like weed, and look, we can grow it too, and then that's going to support our families, and that's going to help us build so many amazing community resources like K-Mud, Senior Resource Center down in Garberville, so many cool community things. And I feel like that's the piece that a lot of people don't really understand of like what there is to lose if these communities get basically cannot continue on the way that we have been, is that it really is this alternative culture to this mainstream thing that we have going on now. And I think it's really interesting in this like current political climate. You see so many things about like, don't support the big corporations, especially right now at the holidays, people are like, don't, shop small, do all, don't support Amazon, don't support, and it's like, it's kind of the same with your weed, which you might not really think about, but it's like shop small in weed too, and because if you don't want things to kind of like devolve into what it sort of seems like maybe politically we're devolving into, it's like, so create a different reality, right? And there's a huge model for what that could look like hanging out up in the Emerald Triangle.
Yeah, and I would love to see direct-to-consumer sales from the farms, direct-to-consumer, where it cuts out some of the tax and it adds some of the profit to the farmers.
That would make all the difference in the world.
And it would make all the sense.
It would make all the sense.
It's common sense, right? It's common sense. They allow it in other industries, the wine industry. If we model after them, I mean, there's potential. There's potential for all this. And I mean, I think the ones who help build it are suffering the most. And, it was built on community, and the community was built around cannabis.
Yep.
The schools, everything, school fundraising, all that stuff was built around cannabis and cannabis growing the communities. And it's been a real struggle for people lately. I mean, the whole economy is a lot worse off than it appears in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't seem so bad. If you're reading the news, it might not seem that bad, but our industry is struggling, and your community more than anything has been taking a real big hit post-COVID.
Very much so. It is the whole economy at large, right? Which does impact people's purchasing decisions, right? But also, we used to have this surplus money that we would invest into community organizations. I'm from the Willow Creek area, which is also a very, very active cultivation area. It's like Eastern Humboldt, and a lot of people know Southern Humboldt, but there's 5 of these farms in this box of J's are from the Willow Creek area because we kind of straddle, like sits right on the Trinity County line.
Right.
And, friends of mine and I together collectively sort of, had this school that all reflected our values that we all sent our kids to. It's declined now into a, sort of a much more small version of itself. I don't know if you've ever talked to Hannah and Riley of Emerald Queen Farms, but, they've managed to fundraise and get these grants to build this amazing skate park in our community park. And that was all because they had time to do that sort of thing, because cannabis allowed you to have a little more freedom with your time,
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this box. This box is a crazy idea. Who came up with this box?
It is my crazy idea.
Yeah.
In one of my drives around the state to sling weed, I was just, how you get in that kind of like creative brain space when you're on a long drive. And it was just kind of popped in there one day.
Yeah.
And I was like, that would be really fun to do. And, I really like doing collaborative work. I feel like it's super important for us to do things together that are bigger than any one of us could do alone. And I kind of sat on the idea for a couple years because busy, doing all the things. But last year, I think it was in October, the Humboldt County Growers Alliance, we were on a call and they were like, hey, you guys, we actually don't know if we have the money to continue, and we need to figure out like how we can do some fundraising. And I just was like, well, I have this crazy idea. Yeah. If you guys want to jump on board with me, we can do it as a fundraiser for HCGA. And, we launched it last year, like maybe end of October.
Wow.
And we produced 500 boxes last year. And it was really me just sort of like calling up my friends that had brands and being like, do you have 500 retail ready pre-rolls that you can sort of risk on this project for me? And like, let's just do it and see.
Yeah.
And basically anybody who was like, yeah, let's do it. We put them in the box and we produced 500 of them. We sold them all out last year, and it was a great response, So then this year we kind of like aimed a little higher. We produced 2,000 of the boxes.
Wow.
Many of these batches of pre-rolls are like exclusive batches that you can't get anywhere else, because we made it sort of a big enough size that it made sense for people to make a batch just for the box. And, we've been working really hard on it since about February. And here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are. So let's take a look so everybody can see what's in this cool box. And it's available at retails all over the state.
Yeah. If you go to emeraldtrianglecraft.com, you can find the list of retailers. And I want to point out that this art is done by a wonderful California artist named Mabel Alcock. And there is no AI art involved in this box. This was all done by a real human, which we support.
Love it. Love it. You got a nice QR code in there so people can get more information. I love that.
Yeah. And that QR code actually is going to lead people. We're going to have like a big community sesh on Zoom on January 8th. So you can get on if you have the box and want to talk about, which J you like the best, and, just have time to hang out with the farms in the box, with a big virtual smoke sesh.
Nice. And so you have a little insert that has a little bit about each one of the products that's being featured.
Yep.
And the farms behind them, it looks like.
That's right.
I love it. And I love the family style photos of everybody. I think that just adds authenticity to everything that you guys are doing.
Yeah. We want to remind people that people grow weed.
Yeah. People and families.
People and families.
You're supporting families. I mean, you can be supporting families. You can be supporting communities if you're buying the right product.
Exactly.
So, and then Humboldt needs it more than ever. And so I'm happy to have you on the show. I think it's great. And I love the product. I love the concept, and getting these out there to everybody. It's a lot of fun. And also it's just when you do fun stuff, it's just, you make people smile. It's an experience.
Yeah. Yesterday we were posted up at the Telegraph Street Fair in Berkeley, And it was really funny because, I was like, hey, have you heard of the 12 J's of Christmas? And I would say about 50% of the people just burst out laughing.
Yeah.
When, some of them just sort of kept walking when I said that. They would laugh and walk on. But, I think it's, the other important thing for us is, we're all about normalization.
Right.
And sort of ending this stigma on cannabis. And it's, that's been one of my sort of biggest awakenings since 2018 is kind of like weed is normalized in the Emerald Triangle, right? We have our kids, with us on the farms. We all, talk about it openly and, sort of coming out of that bubble in,
Right.
2018, it was like, oh, right. There are a lot of places where that is not the case, and think about how many alcohol gift boxes are available, around the holidays. And why shouldn't people also have cannabis gift boxes?
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. And I think it's something that's only going to grow year after year.
Yeah.
After year.
I actually have had a number of farmers in other states reaching out to me. And
Wow.
so we're kind of investigating right now, like, how would we go about doing that, and helping other trade organizations or other like small farm co-ops in other states be able to do the project too and kind of collectively build it to a national level. I would love to see that happen.
Really cool. Yeah, I love the energy behind it. I think we're at the right time and place for it.
Yeah.
And then all good flower. And I feel like it's a great way if you've never experienced outdoor flower that's on the highest level.
Yeah.
This is a great way to do it. And I think most people out there have never really got a taste of what it's like to smoke the best outdoor flower. And that's why they don't appreciate it. It's
Absolutely.
that lack of education that needs to change. Because this is my favorite time of year for flower because I'm trying all the outdoor stuff. And the thing is it changes from year to year, even if they're growing the exact same cultivar from one year to the next because of the differences in the temperature, climate, temperature, all these things, depending on where it's grown, it can express itself differently. You can get different flavors and all these different things.
Yeah.
And there's something magical about sticky bud too, which you don't see a lot of indoor with really sticky bud.
Yeah.
But you do in Humboldt. You see
It's
more
true.
of it for sure.
In the Emerald Triangle, yes.
In the Emerald Triangle, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and for instance, like I know you're a Sour D fan and,
Yes.
we have this cut of Sour D that we've been running for, maybe 10 years now, I think. And this year, the buds are so huge.
Yeah.
We use these little compostable pop tops for our 8s and like, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to fit these Sour D nugs into our pop tops. So it's just in trimming now. So we'll find out, how that's going to go. But it's like, where did this come from? This is the same cut, same place. But, we've been working really hard on our regenerative practices. We've gone to all Jadam inputs over the past 3 years. The only things that we've brought onto our farm are a couple of containers of sea salt and some organic olive oil to do some like pest control soap. And so, I think that takes some time to kind of everything get into balance. And I feel like this year, part of what's going on with this Sour D is like all those microbes and everybody finally was like, okay, cool. Awesome. We can work with this. We know what we're doing now, and so many things. We're just like huge chunkers this year.
Nice. So do you want to explain Jadam?
So many people are familiar with Korean natural farming and Master Cho, right?
KNF and the Master Cho.
Exactly.
Sure.
So Jadam is actually like an adaptation from his son.
Right.
And, in KNF, you use a lot of like tropical fruits and sugar and things, and those are not native to our environment. And so for us, it's all about, not even sustainability because we are trying to regenerate, not just sustain. And so the Jadam makes more sense for us in our climate because it's not sugar. Yep. It's basically... we grow like anything that's starchy. So potatoes, we have like Jerusalem artichokes, things like that. And you kind of blend it up and make this slurry. And, the sea salt goes in for the trace minerals. And then we kind of bubble it in an aerator for a few days until it gets all gross and stinky. And then that's sort of what we, water with and to feed the plants. And so we don't bring anything in really. And that helps keep clean, pests, all that kind of thing. And then also, we're not transporting nutrients. We're not bringing in soil from somewhere else. So it also helps us to control our, pest populations.
Yeah. And cost. All these things that are important.
Labor intensive. Yep. So, the cost thing,
your inputs are less, but your labor is higher.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're putting more love into the product. At the end of the day, I think there's more attention to detail, and the product only gets better year after year.
Definitely. And the land gets more fertile year after year, which is, I think, again, kind of like what we're seeing this year after our third year of doing this exclusively. So
nice. So is your sour all fingery? I love good fingery sour diesel, or at foxtails. The real cut that I used to have, it definitely had that foxtail, and it was like a little bit of citrus and really loud in the bag. And I loved the outdoor sour back in the day. That was, I preferred it actually.
It kind of like burns your nose hairs when you smell it, that kind of thing. These are very big, plump, kind of round nugs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting. Yeah. I mean, I love seeing all the variety too that's grown up there. A lot of the stuff in the Bay, not all of it, but a lot of it is candy gas. And so you get sick of candy gas at a certain point. I love Skittles. I love candy gas. I love certain things.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff we see is just that. And then there's a small percentage of everything else where it's almost the opposite up there. It's like there's a little candy gas, but then there's the spectrum of amazing different variety.
Yeah. I think we were talking to somebody recently, and we thought through our genetics, and we were like, we do not have a single cookies cross that we grow.
Wow.
We do not have, a single gelato, genetic that we're growing. It's all, different stuff than that. And so we grow what we like. My husband, Walter, is like sourdy all day, every day. That's his jam. I like fruity weed, so we have some wonderful key lime jack from Danny at Happy Dreams that is just fabulous. That's one of my favorites. We got a Burmese mimosa from Equilibrium years ago, and she's kind of a diva. She's hard to produce a commercial crop of, but the flavor and nose on her is so worth it that we just keep working on her, trying to make her a little more commercially viable. But, that I'm like a fruity floral girl. Walter likes the funky gas stuff. So we've got a good balance.
What's your thought on Whitethorn Rose?
Oh, I love it.
I do too.
I love it. And,
I love the effect from it as much as I love the flavor from it.
All of it.
I love all of it. Yeah, it's one of those ones that really checks the boxes for me. And then even the gummies that are made from it are epic.
Amazing, because I think that, it's like I have, been to Huckleberry Hill.
Yeah.
We actually did a little breeding project with Johnny with this Burmese mimosa this year. So he gave us a bunch of seeds from his, he took our Burmese mimosa and he crossed it to Whitethorn Rose.
Yeah.
We'll grow that out this coming year and we'll see what it is. But I think that the cool thing about those gummies is that what they taste like is actually the fresh flower.
Yes.
And most people don't really get to experience that, So like what those gummies taste like is if you are standing on Huckleberry Hill smelling that cola when it's still growing, and that, like the fact that they could capture that in those gummies, I don't even understand how they did that, but it's so amazing.
Well, the rosin, because they're using that rosin, and it's like this floral vanilla, like just very natural. You could wear it as a perfume.
Yeah.
It's like one of those ones, like really, you could put it in a perfume and people would wear it and be blown away by it.
Absolutely.
And it's wild. It's
so good.
Once in a lifetime, people get to experience these new things, and it's like one of those miracles.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's definitely something that if you smoke it, or if you're in a room and somebody else is either smoking it or dabbing it, you're like, oh, that's the Whitethorn Rose, There's not too many genetics
in my opinion, it's
say that
just
about.
as important as OG Kush, sour diesel, gelato, whatever you want to talk about, like even Jack and some of the things like Trainwreck. It's like something that at the time there was that one important thing, and Whitethorn Rose right now, it's what OG Kush was in its day to a certain demographic.
Yes. Exactly. And I think, it's an example of I hope, Johnny, if you're listening, that you are thoughtful about how you share those genetics, because it is something that is worth protecting and keeping, with people who are going to be conscientious about that legacy of it.
Well, one of the beautiful things about it is the effect from it more than anything. Yeah. And I feel like there has to be intention behind the growing of it. It's not just going to give everybody the effect when they cultivate it. It has to be grown with intention.
Yeah.
And a lot of the plant, and attention and awareness is so important with this plant. And that's why big, huge commercial facilities aren't going to be able to create a craft product.
Right.
And that's the difference, right? So it's those little details on how it's grown, whether living soil or just a really good cultivator. Right. But when you start growing in huge numbers, you lose something, right? Yeah. There's something that's lost as you scale. And there's nothing wrong with scale. I think accessibility is so important. But also, I do want to smoke craft products. I do want to smoke, I want, when it comes to craft products, whether it's rosin or gummies, those iPoppy gummies are pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, but it's like there has to be that balance with the craft product where it's still craft and you don't lose what's special about it.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with the other stuff because there's so many people that they can appreciate the commodity weed.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope. It's for a certain segment of the market, and that's okay. And I think, it's funny because I've, heard a lot of people sort of having this conversation, and it's an important conversation to have of like, what defines craft cannabis?
Right.
And, for me, our whole focus as a brand at Soul Spirit Farm is we produce high quality, environmentally conscious cannabis. And that, again, is for people who care about that sort of thing,
Right.
To me, environmentally conscious and craft are two completely different things.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's overlap. A lot of the time there's overlap. But, personally, indoor to me, it's not environmentally conscious. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's never going to be environmentally conscious. Right. Living soil is obviously way better than importing, substrate and like whatever from some tropical climate. But ultimately, you can 100% have craft indoor.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think that like that may have been part of how we got into this thing of indoor good, sun-grown bad, is more that, people operating indoor, like it was one little room, and it was your whole thing. And when you used to get $4 or $5 grand a pound, you could just spend all day in there, communing with your plants.
A 4-lighter, and you could make a living, right?
Exactly.
People could make living off 4 lights.
Yeah.
Right. It's pretty amazing. And the funny thing is the dollar's gone down. So because of inflation, the flower should be more expensive, but it's less dangerous to cultivate. So now it's cheaper. But unfortunately, if we're looking at Mexican pounds of brickweed, it was $400 a pound.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit less for some people. We got it for $400. And now the outdoor is cheaper than that when it should be more expensive. And it's such a wild thing.
Yeah. And, I think one of the things that's really interesting to me in the market is that, I talk to retail buyers every day, and, they basically just break stuff down into these categories. And they're like, well, I can get outdoor for this much. And I'm like, well, okay, but not all outdoor is the same.
No.
You have mass produced, you have like good mass produced, you have kind of substandard mass produced, you have, craft, small farm, you have something in between, and we should not be pricing weed based on the light source. We should be pricing weed based on the quality of the flower.
Agreed.
And I'm looking forward to the day that we stop doing this because yes, I'm sure you can get that for a couple bucks an eighth from someone.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that I'm going to sell you mine for that just because you say I can get outdoor for this much, Yeah. So that's a challenge I think that we all just have to navigate.
For sure. Well, and with anything, with new emerging markets, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be struggle. There's going to be good times. There's going to be bad times. And then we're going to have good times again.
Yeah.
And I believe with cannabis, there's always going to be good times because people are smoking weed.
Yeah.
And so there's something to be said for that. And also for the people that persevere, the people that are tough, the people that are, they don't want to do anything else and they're here because they love being here. And I don't want to see those people go away because that's where all the best flower comes from.
Yeah. So people have to find out about it first and foremost, and then purchase based on their own values. And I think that's really where this disconnect is hurting us.
Right.
Is because, let's say you walk into that 20% of dispensaries that actually do have some craft sun-grown, right? Because again, craft indoor, you can get anywhere, right? But craft sun-grown, and it might just be on this shelf with 50 other packages of weed, and it's, $5 to $10 more, but nobody ever explains why that is.
Yeah.
And so then maybe a customer cares about the environment, supporting equity brands, like, whatever shopping your values looks like to you. But if you don't even get told that this product is that, how would you ever know that you would want to spend an extra $5 or $10 on that eighth,
Totally. Education.
Exactly.
And sometimes education through activations.
Yes.
That's important, but it's also then that costs a lot of money. So then you have to look at how much, if you're not doing it yourself, which costs time, time is money.
Yeah.
Then you have somebody else that you're paying and that costs money.
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult when people should be also educating themselves on what's available in the markets. And then it's tough because going Humboldt all the way down to LA or San Diego, you're so far away, word of mouth doesn't travel quite as fast.
Yeah.
So, and then you got to rely on bud tenders and hopefully they love the product too. And I feel like that's a great way to go. But really people need to experience it right now, this time of year, to get the full experience of it. And then they understand, like, okay, it's like wine. You get it once a year, that outdoor. And when it comes, you want to try it right away and get it when it's super fresh.
Yeah.
You get cured out a little bit and then it's prime. And then, come February, March, April, they're still good outdoor and they're still amazing. But right now is the best time of year to consume it, in my opinion.
You're right. However, I would say that most sun-grown has not hit the market yet.
Yeah.
Because for instance,
it's just starting.
Yeah.
Right?
Like my first batches from this fall harvest are like just in testing this week.
Oh, wow.
And so they'll end up hitting Nabis Marketplace probably in 3 weeks. And so beginning of January,
and that's a
they'll get out.
That's a big problem, in my opinion, is the supply chain and it moving too slowly through the supply chain, because I feel like right now consuming it, I'm smoking a lot of amazing outdoor stuff that people gave me at Turpnami.
Yeah.
Some of these guys that are in this box that grew amazing flower, and I'm consuming it right now. And I wish everybody could get the experience that I'm having with this stuff, because it's what I live for.
Yeah.
Too,
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because like the Emerald Cup, that was always such a struggle to get something into packaging in time for that. And, it was like when they ended up doing it in August, of course, that was not a good time for it, because you were
sense.
like, oh my gosh, this is not the time for people to be showcasing their sun-grown. Not good,
right.
But I would say the biggest change for our operation since 2018 actually is curing and storage.
Yeah.
And before, we never really worried. I mean, we would cure it, but we never really worried about storage, because someone would sort of come along and take it all away and we would be done with it, and we never found out what happened to it after that, but now, I actually just had somebody reach out to me who had, bought some clearance discounted 2024 harvest at a dispensary and was just really upset about it, and I was like, I hear you, and I will do what I can to help you out, because it is my face on the package and I want to make sure you have a good experience, but I can't really help the fact that sat at this dispensary for 6 months and then you bought it and it was on clearance. So you should have had at least some idea that this was not premium quality, but
such a bummer, though. It's such a bummer when people don't get to experience, especially if it's their first time trying your brand and they're like, oh, this isn't great. No, but it's been there sometimes a year before people get to try it, unfortunately. That's one of the things we need to fix about the systems that we have. Especially
the direct-to-consumer would solve that problem for us.
Absolutely would. And they allow it in wine, so why not let us do it in cannabis? I feel like all these farms direct-to-consumer would help them, save some farms in some cases, but also it'd be good for everybody, because then you go to the farm and you meet the people, then you get the story it becomes this authentic experience that everybody gets to experience for themselves. And it brings back the community aspect of this culture that was so important in building this culture.
Right. And that's honestly like a huge part of the 12 J's of Christmas project.
Yeah.
Is, we do sell a bunch of these boxes at supportive retail stores, so we have like Embark came on as a huge partner for us this year, and they're really good about supporting Sungrown.
Yeah.
It's like they're still fighting that uphill battle with the consumer base, just like we are, but they do a really good job of training their staff and helping, to make sure that if somebody has a question, the staff at least, can answer it for them. And then honestly, most of the rest of the shops are legacy shops that were operating in the 215 days and are still in business, and they're who is helping us with these boxes. But the other piece of this are these, quasi direct to consumer events that we're holding where the farmers are going, down to Sessions by the Bay in San Diego. We're all going to be there at this party. And the people who have made donations to Humboldt County Growers Alliance get a ticket to this party. They get to come meet all the farms. We all will, it's not just about the J's in the box, but we'll all have our fresh harvest to share. Mm-hmm. People will get to, interact and meet the farmers. And it's, because we have brought them in through the donation process,
yep.
We now have the ability to communicate with these folks. And yes, like, thank you to Sessions, thank you to the Woods in LA for offering their lounges to us to like do this. And of course, it's good for them too,
right?
Because they sell our weed normally. And so having your customers get the chance to meet the farms, it does create a special connection. And, but then next year, we'll be able to directly email the people who got the box this year and continue that relationship. And then one day, if, the feds or the state cooperate with us and offer us the opportunity to actually sell direct to consumer, we will already have these relationships and kind of be ready to go. So that's another big goal of this project, is like developing that pathway for ourselves in the marketplace.
Really cool.
Yeah.
I love it. It's funny, tough times, sometimes they bring out the best in people.
Yeah.
With this community, especially, we've gone through tough times before. We've lost friends. We've had friends go to prison. There's been really difficult times in the past. And I think this is just another hurdle.
Yeah.
And we're going to have good days ahead. I can see it. And I think we just got to support the community and that we came from. And I feel like with the commercialization and the legalization on the state level of cannabis, we kind of lost part of the community aspect of it, and it became this adult use thing.
Yeah.
We forgot about the medical side of it. We forgot about what was really important, which was the community that started it and helped build it. It's, all over California, not just in Emerald Triangle, just the Bay Area, Sacramento, down to Los Angeles, San Diego, all these places that were part of this bigger community. And with the Prop 15 days, you used to go to a dispensary and be like, how can we help you feel better?
Right.
What can we do to make you feel better? Some places even had massages in them. Like Harborside used to get free massages. They used to do all these things. And the bud tenders would try to guide you towards medicine that would make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And with recreational, it's been the opposite, where it's like, okay, well, what's going to get you the most high? Well, the THC percentage is the most important. So we're going to get you the highest THC stuff, which doesn't necessarily taste the best. It comes in a nice packaging. It comes in nice packaging. There's all the bells and whistles, but is it the best product? Are we talking about effect anymore? Or, flavor and effect to me are the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I would say that the most common comment that we at Soul Spirit Farm get from folks when we meet them out at events and stuff is that your weed got me high school high.
Nice.
And actually I just had a friend who bought this box. They smoked our Sour D joint out of the box. And this batch of Sour D flower tested at 18% THC.
Nice.
It was nice. It was very difficult to sell to dispensaries.
But in reality, my sour that I used to grow would test between 14 and 18%, and it was a lot stronger than the stuff that would test at 30%. Right. So cannabinoids aren't all equal.
Exactly.
Just because it's high in THC, it's a number of things like the terpenes, flavonoids, other compounds. And, it's like, especially the terpenes, but other cannabinoids as well. Right. You put some CBC in there, it's going to be more mellow. Same thing. You put CBD or CBC or some of these other things, you can create a more mellow product.
Yeah.
That doesn't get you as high. And then there's some of these cannabinoids in small amounts, THCV, for instance, that can get you way more high in combination with specific terpenes.
Right.
It's this whole entourage effect that people want to forget about and they want to classify, and they're like, high THC is so important. And it's sad that we've gone that direction where it's high THC sativa indica hybrid.
Yeah.
And like that model has to go away.
Yeah.
It has to go away. Like
it
just needs to be thrown out the door, and we need to start talking about it as different effects like uplifting,
right.
And even narcotic and other things like that. We can use those terms for different genetics rather than indica for,
right.
Because like that could mean a number of things.
Yeah.
And really it means the leaf of the plant and the morphology.
Exactly.
But we had to start somewhere, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of terms that are used incorrectly with cannabis. I mean,
very
even down to
so.
the word strain.
Yeah. It's so I have attempted, we've changed our labels probably in maybe 2019, and we stopped, we call it activating, cruising, and stargazing,
nice.
Because we do have this glamping bud and breakfast experience on our farm, and we kind of modeled that after that. So like one of the activities that a lot of people do, because we have world-class kayaking and river rafting, like right out our back door, basically.
Wow.
And so, activating is like the perfect thing when you want to go out and do something active, and you want that to support your exercise routine or whatever. I'm a physical therapist is like my day job.
Nice.
That pays the bills. And, I also teach Zumba and Pilates, and it's like, man, that key lime jack or we have some amazing Blue Dream this year. And either of those two before Zumba.
Yeah.
I'll find myself 15 minutes into class with this huge, can we swear on this podcast?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Shit-eating grin on my face. Yeah. And, and it just makes it so much more fun. I get a better workout, it's a healthy thing to do, and, I recently have met a couple of professional athletes who do not consume. And I ran Division I track and cross country in college. And I, at that time, did not consume cannabis because it was Mexi weed, and that was not going to help me.
Imagine if you did. Because I feel like a lot of these professional athletes in track, especially, like it opens up your lungs.
Oh, yeah.
Some of these guys are admitting to doing it years ago.
You can just get in the flow. And like any endurance sports, so cycling, running,
jiu-jitsu,
that are like
the jiu-jitsu guys all love it. Yeah. I mean, I think there's huge benefits to it, if used correctly.
Exactly.
I think if used correctly, it can be an amazing tool, an amazing thing to help you out, and it makes the world a better place.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, it's a wellness tool. And I think that's the part that we, as an industry, like if it's actually true, if you are not producing weed that is actually healthy for people, you should probably not be advertising it as a wellness tool.
Yeah.
But if it's clean and if it's grown with intention and care, and there is correct information and dosing, that people can find, then, I truly believe that cannabis is here to help us evolve as a human species. Right. And part of that is, looking at the reasons that maybe we have habits that are unhealthy for us.
Right.
And like what's driving that, and how can I help myself to shift out of that pattern that's not healthy. Right. And, I know for myself that, I'm not saying I never drink alcohol. If it's in some social situation, on a very rare occasion, I will. But weed has always been my choice over that, because it does not feel as though it is, killing off my cells.
Yeah.
while I'm, consuming it. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything in balance, everything in moderation, and there can be overuse of cannabis and used incorrectly, but if it's used correctly, it can help so many people out.
Yeah.
I think it does help so many people out.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of where we're at, is that like people are opening up to it. I love the Cannabis Media Council. They have that ad campaign that's like, I'm high right now. And it's like a bunch of folks, seniors doing different things, gardening, cooking, doing whatever. And I think, that population of folks who are like, 50 and up, say, are opening up to it maybe more than any other population and using it for wellness and being surprised sometimes that like, oh, hey, I finally gave this a try and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I waited this long because it has such a huge positive effect in my life. A lot of my physical therapy clients, like I specialize in complex and chronic pain. And cannabis for many of my clients makes all the difference in how they're able to receive the work.
Yeah.
Because when you've been in chronic pain for a long time, you develop a coping mechanism, which is like disconnecting yourself from your body and what you're feeling. And if you kind of hang out in that space for a long time, it's very difficult to heal yourself out of this pain.
Right.
And I have seen many, many people like through minimal to moderate sort of use of cannabis, say, before they come in to see me for their treatment or before they do their stretches or exercises, that it helps them to like tune in to their body, feel what's going on. You're less likely to injure yourself doing a stretch or exercise if you are sort of in tune with what's going on in there. And so, that's sort of one of my I'm very blessed to have had my physical therapy practice in Humboldt County since 1999. And so, all of those years of sort of the community's open to it. So people would tell me like, oh yeah, so I did this, I smoked this before I came in, or I ate this gummy, and like, oh my gosh, like now I get what you were talking about when you were telling me to do this thing.
Right.
And, to me, that is one of the huge healing benefits of cannabis. It brings you presently into your body so that then you can kind of work with whatever comes up as you try to get better,
I love the awareness side of it.
Yeah.
I think alcohol tunes you out, cannabis tunes you in.
Yeah.
I would much rather be tuned in than tuned out. Right. And I think there's a place for alcohol in a social setting or whatever. But I love the fact that psychedelics and cannabis in particular tunes you in, right?
Yeah.
Tunes you into your body. It makes you more aware to a degree. For most people anyway.
Yeah.
And
presence.
Yeah.
That's, I think that, all of our work here as humans on this planet is to spend as much time as possible being present.
Yeah.
And cannabis definitely helps me with that a lot.
It's almost counterintuitive because most people are so worried about the past, so worried about the future, when the most important thing is right here and right now.
Yep.
And if you can really focus on right here and right now and what can I do to improve myself, you're going to improve everyone around you.
Yep.
And so it's just those little things, and cannabis makes you more aware of the present more than anything else.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, as a parent too, like I think that there is a lot of use, that really helps. I mean, I remember during COVID when, everybody was having to homeschool and everybody was just like concerned about the future and what was going on. And I really wished that we could do real advertising at that time, because I was like, what would be like the best ad campaign for our farm brand right now is like, I want the picture of like, the kids all running around crazy inside the house and the mom sitting out on the porch with her joint and just being like, I'm remembering why I love my children right now while I'm out here on the porch, because it was super challenging times. And, I know that for me, when I'm feeling, irritable and stressed and just too busy and, my kid comes in and wants something, it's easy to kind of, just react to that. But if I have the moment to kind of like, oh, wait a second, actually, take a breath.
Sometimes that's all you got to do is take a breath.
Yep.
It's so important. Breathing is so important.
Yeah.
And breathing when you're smoking is great.
It's kind of part of how it works.
Right. Totally. Kind of part of how for sure. Well, and consciously breathing is good too.
Yep.
And I think some of us go through life without thinking about how we're breathing. And if you start consciously breathing, Wim Hof has done amazing stuff with breath work.
Yeah, that is very cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that is very cool. I love the cold plunge, thing. I think it's great for inflammation, but also just for working with your tolerance to discomfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, life wasn't meant to be easy. And so,
no. If it was easy, we would just, I don't think we would grow that much. I think we would just kind of stay flatline. It would be boring. You wouldn't really, evolve too much because it is pressure. And that's the same thing with sun-grown cannabis, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you're dealing with wind, when you're dealing with rain, when you're dealing with bugs and, really, really hot sun where we are, it's hot and sunny.
Stress.
And the stress makes you stronger, right?
And stress makes some of the best cannabis on the planet.
Yeah, I agree.
So did you come here on Dead Tour and end up staying?
I did. Sort of. That was a part of it. I came out on Dead Tour. I met Walter. We actually met at a Jerry Garcia memorial on the day that Jerry died. Back at that time, I was a traveling physical therapist. So
30 years ago.
Yeah. Many years ago, I would get these little traveling physical therapy jobs that were like 3 months. And one of them took me to LA. And I had gotten there on Monday. Jerry died on Thursday, and I didn't know a soul in LA. And I went out to this Jerry Garcia memorial and met a group of friends that still are my friends today. Walter was one of them. And we then bought this school bus, and 9 of us went down into Mexico for 3 months, I think. We bought like a kilo of seeded Mexi weed. It was not bricked up yet. So that was an awakening too, that it was like, swag is a process.
Yeah.
Swag is not a cultivar.
Right.
It actually happens after they harvest that,
Some of that stuff is really good before they bricked it up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Colombian,
it was
all
seeded,
of that stuff. Yeah.
Seeded, but green and beautiful. And that was the first we'd experienced that, because we were just used to okay, you can get this $25 eighth of brown Mexi weed, or you can pay $60 for an eighth of kind bud, and then BC bud sort of hit the scene and it was like, okay, $45 for that,
Right.
But, we went down into Mexico in this school bus. We smoked and cooked our way through this kilo of weed in, a couple of months' time. And when we came back, we decided I took one of these traveling jobs up in Humboldt because I had a friend who was going to HSU up there, and was like, oh, cool, let's go hang out with her for a little while. And really for us at the time, there was a lot of environmental activism going on around the ancient redwoods. And I don't know if you remember Julia Butterfly, or there was a gentleman named David Gypsy Chain who had gotten killed in the woods doing activism. A tree was felled on him, and that had happened right before we arrived. And so there was just it was a very intense time. And that really, I feel like it really took, made me feel like, oh, these are my people. This is my place. And after that, it was just oh, yeah, well, we're here. This is where we're staying, and we continued to do this environmental activism. And it was really actually when I got arrested for locking myself to a logging gate and, spent some time in jail. And I was like, okay, jail sucks. I never want to go back to jail. And I did this out of passion. And, I believed in what I was doing, but I also was like, nope, jail is not a place for me to shine my light or do my work. And so it was really right after that we started looking for a farm and a homestead, because we were like, we're going to, instead of fighting against these things that we don't want, we're going to go find a way that we can actually live as an example of what we think that people could do, let's build a homestead that is self-sufficient, that is, supportive of what we want to see as a civilization of the world,
Really cool.
Yeah.
I love it. So if you had one piece of advice for your younger self, what would that one piece be?
Oh, I mean, there's definitely this part of me that wants to be grow a lot more weed and save a lot more money in, the 90s and the 2000s.
Right.
because, it was sort of that thing of like, I wish I had known that it was the good old days when I was in the good old days, and appreciated it more.
They don't tell you these things, though. They don't tell you these things. Yep.
No, and, but not really. I mean, that's just kind of tongue in cheek. But I think that it is, like build the life that you want.
Yeah.
You don't have to settle for somebody else's version of what you're supposed to be doing or how your life is supposed to look.
Yeah.
And, take the time and do the internal work to figure out what you want.
Yeah.
And then find the way to make that happen for yourself rather than, fitting into somebody else's box.
Their imagination.
Yeah. Or just like the way the flow of society kind of directs you.
Their vision of what the perfect life is.
Yeah.
It can be your vision.
Exactly. Yes.
I try to do that consciously. So
all things consciously, yes.
So if people are looking to find out more about you, they want to hear more about the 12 J's of Christmas, or they want to be part of next year, 2026's 12 J's of Christmas. Dude, I didn't even show you guys the back. Really, really cool. The packaging's amazing. But if they're looking to find out more about you, where's the best place to go?
Yeah. So for the 12 J's of Christmas, it's emeraldtrianglecraft.com. And we will probably start in about February, accepting farmer applications to be in the box.
Nice.
And also a call for artists. So, every year we feature a different artist on the box. And so we'll do a call for artists probably in February. All the artists out there can submit their designs. And then for Soul Spirit Farm, we're at soulspiritfarm.com and Soul Spirit Farm on Instagram. And then for our glamping bud and breakfast, that's soulspiritretreats.com.
Oh, I can't wait to come up and check it out.
Oh, I hope you do. Yeah,
awesome.
It's a special experience. I feel like that's another way that people can connect with the plant. I mean, many people have never seen a plant growing in the ground, really in the ground, right? And also, it's quiet and there's no light pollution. And really at night, you can see the Milky Way every night unless it's cloudy.
Wow.
And, I feel like a lot of what ails us as humans is like nature deficit disorder.
Right.
And so we've had a number of people who have come up for the weekend and ended up basically changing their entire life after and just being like, oh yeah, wait, what am I doing? Why am I working this corporate job? Why am I living in this city?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. I can do something else,
Too much of that NDD. That's pretty amazing. I love it. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We'll have to do this again sometime. I'm coming up to Humboldt in the near future, and I'm going to be doing farm tours next year. So I'd love to come and highlight what you're doing and check everything out. Sounds exciting.
Yes, come and visit.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, James.
Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you guys very much for your support. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe down below.